The following is an Operation Podcast production.
If you're in the car, I hope you have your seatbelt on.
Oh, yeah. And sorry.
This is going to be something.
Sorry for the kids that are listening. And I said I work at Disneyland because that's what I did at the time. The audience laughed. And then I turned to the audience and said, shut up, I'm not one of the seven. It was at that moment where I just went, oh, this is good. I like this.
If you want to test the waters of whether or not you want to take a leap in a direction that has risk to it, right?
Yeah.
Or you want to follow your dreams, look for the evidence of what you desire already coming true.
Fame sucks. I'll put that right out there. Money, great. But that was the switch. Obviously, that's what started it, not what's keeping it going. I'm married and I still have the same mentality. But it is interesting how you can have those moments and say, yeah, that's not going to be
That's not going to be my fate.
Are you ready for a wild ride? I'm Alexis Artin, and I invite you to strap in because this is more than a podcast. This is Look at Me Now.
Hey, everybody. I don't even know where to start with today because, full disclosure, I have a lot of history with the guy sitting in the seat across from me today. We go way back, way back. And that will unfold as we have our conversation here today. But without further ado, let me introduce you to Brad Williams.
Hello, everybody. I am the first guest on this show whose feet dangle on the chair and they're not touching the ground. That's okay. That just means we have to go fast or else it'll cut off and my legs will go numb. All good. All good.
So need I say he is a comedian?
Yeah.
That is his.
If you've seen a Dwarf pop up on your Instagram algorithm, that was probably me or the OnlyFans star that made like 24 million in a year.
What?
Yeah, there's a dwarf adult film star that made 24 million in a year on OnlyFans. So I'm not like Dinklage isn't even the most successful one. That girl, whoever, I don't know her name. I'm not subscribed.
Right.
No, I'm not. As I tell people, I'm not subscribed to dwarf porn. I don't watch dwarf porn. If I wanted to see dwarf porn, I would have sex with my wife next to a mirror and look left. that is where I would go.
If you're in the car, I hope you have your seatbelt on.
Oh yeah, and sorry.
This is going to be something.
Sorry for the kids that are listening.
No.
But yes, you and I have known each other for about 20 years, and I've been in comedy for about 20 years.
Yeah.
And we haven't really spoken or seen each other in about 15, which is heartbreaking to me because there's no hard feelings. There's no like, oh, we didn't get along or anything like that. I loved you, still love you. So I'm happy to be here. This is weird because like part of my brain is in podcast mode where it's like, hey, do the thing, do the shtick, and then the other part of my brain is I just want to catch up with my friend and see. And like we both had lives that have changed dramatically in the past 15 years, and I just want to like see pictures of your kids and know you as a mom, and if you're making lunches and if you're fighting with other moms. Are you a helicopter parent or are you just like come back when the lights are on? I don't know.
I mean, all of the above, and we will go have like a full family reunion and we will discuss all of the things.
Truly would love that.
And in the meantime, I really like, of all of the people, all of the comedians that, I have come across, I really felt called to have you come on this show in this platform. Because I really always found you to be a very grounded human being, a very self-aware human being. You're not just smart, which makes you a great comedian, but you have an emotional intelligence to you in that self-awareness. That is, he's like,
more compliments.
Yes,
please.
more. Please keep it coming.
Feed me.
But just, a real sense of openness and awareness and an ability to have the deeper conversations. And again, I also think that's what makes you a great comedian.
Well, thank you. I think I've been told by certain people that I'm one of the more grounded ones that are out there, and that's not a dwarf joke. But if you're listening in the audio podcast, yeah, dwarf, little person, person of short stature, 4'4", full adult height. Okay, good. That part's out of the way. Yeah, I think it's just because as a little person, it's hard not to have too much of an ego, because I'll do a show where it's sold out and it's crazy and standing ovation and blah, and then I'll walk back to the car, and when I go across the street, there'll be someone who yells something derogatory at me. So it's like, right back down to level. So it's like, that's how it's, like the most anxious part of my life is not doing stand-up. It's dropping my kid off at school, because when I drop my kid off at school, all the other kids are there, and I'm just like, oh, what are they gonna say today? So there's one kid that calls me not real dad. So that's fun. And then like it's kids, so I can't respond how I want to, which is a foot to the chest.
Right.
So I think that keeps me grounded in terms of, and I've got like the same friends that I did when I started stand up, and a wife that enjoys the fruits of the labor, but not the labor. So yeah, all that helps me stay grounded. And also I don't want to be, I've grown up in Los Angeles and Orange County, Southern California my whole life. I've been around the people that, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to, if anyone finds these beneficial, great for you. I'm not saying you're nuts, but there's certain types of healing aspects that people go through. It's like, oh, I got my chakras and my healing crystals, and these are my lamps. And if you do that and it's great for you, okay, awesome. Me personally, no, and I've just been around that my whole life, so I'm just like, I'll go. And even now, I don't live in Hollywood. I live outside of Hollywood, so in a town where no one gives a crap if you're in the business or not. And I like that, because then I go home and I'm not Brad the comedian. I'm just Brad the husband and Brad the dad. Although my daughter's kindergarten teacher just came up to me and said she really likes my stuff, and that's weird. You're teaching my kid, and I'm telling jokes about things I can't repeat to the kids. So that's a little terrifying. But for the most part, yes, I try to stay grounded. Was that a long enough answer? Shut up, Brad. Okay.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. It is really, especially in the industry, which, for those of you who don't know that are listening, I was in the entertainment industry for a long time. And that's actually how I met Brad originally. Yeah. And there is, I can both sit here and rattle off name after name after name of people that really, like, their ego does carry them away, or, something that they get involved in sort of takes them out of feeling a sense of groundedness and reality. So I appreciate the disclosure. No,
it's something to where my daughter does not give a crap that I did a show for, 2,000 people or whatever. She does not care. Although I will say this, I brought her to a show before everyone got in the theater, and she looked out into the theater and she goes, "Daddy, you talk to all these people?" And I go, "Yeah, Daddy talks to all those people." And then I put the microphone next to her, and she heard her voice, and she grabbed the microphone from me and started walking around the stage, and I'm just like, oh boy. It has begun. It has begun.
Another one bites the dust.
Yes. Yeah. She hasn't asked to go back on stage, but now, I have a nephew who is 12 years old, and some of his friends know who Uncle Brad is. And that's really interesting, because he's just discovering it. I've always just been Uncle Brad to him.
Right.
And now when I come over, it's like, Uncle Brad, so you're a comedian? And yeah, and then questions just rattle off. So, it's starting to get to those spaces in my world, but I'm really trying to keep it out. I leave the house, I flip the comedian brain switch, and then I go do that, and then I want to come home and turn the comedian brain switch off and just be husband, just be dad.
Well, for those of you who don't know you as well as I do,
Yeah.
I would love for us to go backward on the timeline and sort of bring everybody up to speed on like, where do you come from? Give us your origin story.
Okay. Despite what you may think, if you see me at 4'4", it's not Narnia. Let me get into it. I was born in Orange County, California, raised there. My whole family are not dwarves. It's not that kind of scenario where it's like, what's this, the dwarf house? It's the mushroom with the door in it. It's not that at all. I was the most average Leave It to Beaver family, mom, dad, sister, son, dog. Like that was it. And and then grew up in Southern California, worked at Disneyland. And then the first joke I ever told, the joke that actually got me into stand-up, was your old boss, my old boss, Carlos Mencia, was on stage. He made some dwarf jokes. The audience was laughing, but then the audience that was sitting by me was not laughing. And he looked over to the side and said, "What, is one of them here?" And I just raised my hand in the air. And he goes, "Oh, holy shit, let's talk to you." And he called me up on stage. And he asked me questions. And one of the questions was, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I work at Disneyland," because that's what I did at the time. And then the audience laughed. And then I turned to the audience and said, "Shut up, I'm not one of the 7. And then the audience laughed. See, your producer just laughed. The joke still works. It's the first joke ever, and it still works.
I remember it was in Irvine.
And it was in Irvine. And it was at the old Irvine Improv. And it was at that moment where I just went, "Oh, this is good. I like this."
Want to know what happens when you treat hydration like a suggestion? Because the answer isn't just feeling a little tired or having dry skin. It can lead to some real health nightmares if left unchecked. Take it from this cancer survivor. Hydration is critical. The list of what goes sideways is massive, but it can be easily avoided. My secret weapon is a combination of commitment to having half my body weight in water per day, which is totally doable and easy when you plan for it, and to have electrolytes. And not just any electrolytes with hidden sugars and hide and seek ingredients. My go-to is LMNT, the zero sugar electrolyte drink mix that is redefining hydration. It is packed with all the good stuff our bodies need: sodium, potassium, magnesium. So it doesn't just hydrate, it supports nerve function and muscular contractions. How many drinks can you say do that? The best part is, if you're like me and water gets a little boring, the flavor options are endless. And honestly, delicious. I carry it with me wherever I go and I add it to my water. Enjoy meeting your hydration and electrolyte needs without any sugar, gluten, or artificial ingredients. This is the way that we restore and nourish our bodies that do so much for us. Oh, and get my special offer of a free sample pack with any purchase by visiting drinklmnt.com/LAMN. Enjoy, friends.
Comedian's one of those jobs where a lot of people want to do it and then no one really knows how. Especially then, because now you have podcasts that kind of instruct people. Now I'm pretty sure half people think you become a comedian by starting on Kill Tony. But I didn't know how to do it. So I just looked up open mic nights and found there was an open mic night at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood. I'm like, well, that's where people perform. So that's where I should go. And that's where I started, just doing the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, California 20 years ago. And now 20 years later, some people are just discovering me and they're like, "Man, you came out of nowhere." And then I want to choke them. But yeah, that's kind of the origin story, is growing up. I was going to USC, fight on Trojans. And then when I started doing comedy, I had a year left. And then I dropped out to do stand-up comedy, which was a fun conversation to have with the parents.
And by the way, even Carlos was one credit shy of his electrical engineering degree. And
we kind of had that
away.
In common.
I remember.
And for a while I was doing both. For a while I was doing comedy and going to school. But then when he asked me to go on tour and like live on a tour bus for 3 months, I was like, well, I can't do school and that. And then I knew I was never going to go back to school, but I told my parents, no, I'll go back. Yeah, oh, sure. And I was getting a degree in communications. We didn't lose a cancer cure by me dropping out of school. It's fine. We're not like, oh, we would be the society on a hill if only Brad had gotten his degree in communications. No, best case scenario, I'd be a sports broadcaster interviewing LeBron James with the microphone on top of my head and his dick in my face.
Oh boy, here we go.
That's would be.
Am
I allowed to curse?
Yes.
That would be probably my dream scenario. So yeah, that's what I did. I dropped out, started going on tour, toured with Carlos for about 4 years, and then went out on my own and started headlining. And
I think that's where I lost track of you. When you sort of went out on your own, you got your wings and the bird left the nest.
I did. And just so you know, when you start headlining comedy, you know this, but for your listeners, when you start headlining, it's not like you just go and you go to the vice president of show business. They hand you your jokes and they say, all right, now go have fun. And then you sell out clubs every weekend. Like, no, you're doing crap rooms for people that don't know who you are, that club owners that are treating you like a piece of meat, but you grind it out because that's what you want, and that's the goal. And from the moment I started, I said that the goal of mine, the dream of mine, would just be a headlining stand-up comedian. That's all I ever wanted to be. So anything after that is bonus. So where we are right now, where we're doing theaters and selling out multiple shows in a theater, that is not where I thought I would ever be. I thought that was reserved for only the certain few in show business, but now I'm there and it's crazy and it's wonderful. It's stressful, but overall it's mind blowing.
Well, I mean, and it brings up a question because like, I'll say this as a mother, right, to a 10-year-old who is growing up in a very different time than I'm growing up.
Yeah.
Right. So you're tracking this as a dad too, right?
Yes, very much
that, growing up, I'm not going to necessarily fully date myself here, but when you were a kid and you said, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. It was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. Right. These were the things that we, looked up to and would want to strive for. And now it's like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a gamer. I want to be, I want to be a Kardashian or whatever.
So I was doing a show last week and there was a male little person in the show. In the audience, he said he was 16 years old, and just for like crowd work and stuff, I was like, hey, so what do you like? You're not in college yet, but what do you have any dreams? What do you want to do? And he responded, oh, I want to be famous. And I said, like, it broke my heart. I don't want to hear that. So I flipped the switch. I flipped off comedian mode. And I told him, this is an audience of 1,200 people. And I was like, hold on. I need to talk to him as a dad for a second.
Yeah.
And I go, I know you have parents, but you don't want to be famous. I go, you want to be famous for something you are really good at. You want to have a skill. You don't want to be famous just to be famous. Because then what do you focus on? What's bringing you joy? I do comedy. Fame has nothing to do with why I do comedy. I like doing comedy because I really enjoy comedy. I like making people laugh. I love crafting a joke. I love writing a joke, doing it and that night and getting that validation of it worked, getting a laugh. I go, focus on something, be really good at it. And if you get famous for that, okay. But I go, overall, fame sucks. I'll put that right out there. Money, great. Money's awesome. Fame sucks. And I don't even have that much of it. I have a perfect level of it. Perfect where I go out, occasionally I get recognized, it's positive, and then people usually come up, they want a quick photo, I give them the photo, and then they leave. But the fact that I do not post photos of my daughter on my social media because there was an incident where someone recognized my daughter in a grocery store. I was not there. It was just my wife and my kid, and I was on the road. And then someone screamed out, "That's Brad Williams' baby," and started running up to my child and started like hands. And my wife had to go full Karen. And you don't want her to go full Karen. So like you find out stuff like that. There are friends of mine that work in certain industries that I'm happy that they're working in these industries, and I'm happy that they're making a living, and I'm happy that they're happy. They will make a post on social media. I don't like the post because I go, now on social media your name pops up, and it's like, oh no, because even though my wife knows that we're friends, I don't want that. I don't want that. Like, so yeah, fame is not why you want to do this. I do this for, as I said before, the jokes. And I do this because I'm talking a lot about mental health now in my act. And when people come up to me and say that they went through something and my comedy was one of the things that helped them get out, yeah, that's why you do this. So fame is not something that I think is something for people to pursue, at least not in a healthy way. If you are famous as a side, okay, great. But I remember someone was interviewing Matt Damon one time, and it was like at peak Lindsay Lohan fame.
Sure.
And they asked him like, "Hey, how come we're not seeing you on the tabloids or whatever?" And he responded, "Because I don't go out, and when I do go out, I don't call the tabloids to tell them where I'm going to be.
Sure.
And I just go and I do my thing, and then I go home. I don't tell anybody." So, and he doesn't live in Hollywood. He lives outside of Hollywood. And I go, yeah, that's what you do. You can be respected, you can be known, but you don't want to be famous. Famous is not something that you don't want people going through your stuff and waiting for you to mess up. And then when they do, they pounce, and then they don't care that you have a self. They don't care that you have a family that you support. They don't care that you have an ecosystem that you're keeping alive. Kids, whatever. Like they don't like. It's like right now, as we're recording this, one of the biggest stories in our country is that healthcare CEO that got assassinated. Now, if someone wants to make jokes about that, I'm not gonna stop you. But I think, as much as I may disagree with the industry that man was in, the guy's got kids, and the kids never asked for this. The kids don't. The kids just lost their dad. That's all they know.
Right.
And now they go online and people are celebrating the man that killed their dad. Like, to me, that's heartbreaking. So that's what fame gets you. Is your story is taken away from you, and now it becomes other people's stories, and they can do whatever with it that they want.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a shadow side.
Yeah.
And I'm even curious about, for those people who are listening, right? And like, let's say, even circling back to my kid going, well, I want to be a gamer, or I want to be a YouTuber. Not even necessarily because they want to be famous, but he loves gaming, or he loves watching YouTube, and he feels creative, or he feels inspired, and he thinks that's the way to make a really good living, or whatever. And I grew up with a dad who, if I said, oh, I want to be a movie star, my dad would say, get your head out of the clouds. No, you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor. Like that's not reasonable. And let's use you as an example, right?
Sure.
You are just getting your degree. Like, you are right there. You're right on the cusp. Like, you've put all the work in. There's all of this expectation on you from your family.
Yeah.
And you feel a separate calling, and it's a risk. It's a gamble. Walk us through like the internal dialogue that makes you go, I'm taking the leap.
Thankfully, I didn't know the risk. I knew that comedy was great, and comedy, it brought me joy, and I knew I was good at it. That was the thing. I knew I was good at it because I saw the reactions I was getting, and I saw the reactions as compared to people that had started at the same time as I did, or sometimes even a few years before, and I was like, oh, this is going well. So but it was the hardest thing in the world to tell my family, like tell my parents, like, yeah, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to school. My philosophy was always, you go to school to figure out what you want to do. And then I found out what I wanted to do. Great. I don't need school anymore. So if like my daughter ever comes to me and says like, hey, I want to be whatever influencer, I will look at her and say, if that's what you want, if that's what brings you joy, great. You should do that. But you don't get to be a half-ass influencer. You have to do it. You have to, like, this has to be your life. You have to treat it as a job. And because the streets are littered with people that thought certain jobs would be just fun, and they didn't realize that it would be a job, and you have to take it seriously. And so yeah, that I want to be able to provide my daughter with the kind of life where if she wants to try one of those things, okay. Because no one told me the odds. If someone had told me the odds of because you look at who people were when they started in comedy, and then how many people made it to either low-level headliner or, God willing, where I'm at right now, or the people that are selling out stadiums. The odds are very low. Very low. So if someone would have told me the odds, I probably wouldn't have continued it. But see,
and isn't that the conundrum, right?
Yeah.
Because as a let's say in my example as a mother, like I don't want to do to my kid what my dad did to me. Hey, get your head out of the clouds. What makes you think you're so special? The odds aren't in your favor. There's the part of me that goes, I don't want to do that to my kid. I want him, whatever he feels really passionate about and he has dreams on, I want to celebrate him to the moon so he feels confident and goes for it. But there's also the other side of me that inherited my father's voice, right? Or worries about my kid and wants the best for my kid, that says, wait a second, we got to play it safe here. Let's make, don't jump out of an airplane, even with a parachute. So, it's an interesting thing to chew on. And also what I heard you say was something that a mentor of mine says a lot.
Interesting.
Which is, if you want to test the waters of whether or not you want to take a leap in a direction that has risk to it, right? Or you want to follow your dreams, look for the evidence of what you desire already coming true. And you just said that's what you did. I saw that that my jokes were landing. I saw that they were landing better than my competitors.
What's interesting is, this is one of the things I didn't even think about when I started doing comedy, is when you think about successful dwarf comedians before me, there is one name, and that is all. Like, there's Candidly Davis, and she is a successful stand-up comedian. She never got to the level of theaters where I'm doing right now, but she is someone where every time I think maybe I'm the first dwarf to ever do this, nope, Candidly did it, and she's awesome. She's hilarious. Everyone should watch her stuff. But so I didn't really have an example of like, I didn't have that representation of like, oh, that's me. I can see me doing this, but I didn't think about that.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
That speaks to your mentality about yourself. I mean, we could
or
spin off
stubbornness or naivete.
Right. I mean, we could spin off into a tangent about what you just said, which is representation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from your idea of representation to, when Carlos was on the show talking about how much representation there was of like Latin comedians versus Black comedians
Freddie
versus
Prinze
white
and Paul
versus
Rodriguez.
women.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. So we could spin off in that direction, but I actually want to spin back around to you having the mentality of, it didn't even cross my mind. And, as we look back at like how you were raised, right? Because there is a lack of representation of people who looked like you, right? Growing up, even like in childhood and development, growing up into manhood, growing into being a comedian. How do you have a mindset that goes, I didn't even take it into account?
Well, that's because of my parents. That is 100% because of my parents, because they raised me like to be aware that I'm a little person, but not to use it as a crutch or an excuse.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So like dad would say, like, you're not going to be a pro football player, but you can be a lawyer. You can be something like, so it's like there was realistic expectations of and they wouldn't let me use it as an excuse in terms of, like, if I went down in the morning to get myself a bowl of cereal, the bowls were up high. And I was like, hey, can we move the bowls down low so I can get them? And my dad and my mom were like, no, because this world is not built for you. The world is not going to adjust for you. You need to be able to figure this out. So I would, do my, as I call it, cirque de miger, and pop up on the counter, get the cereal bowl. And that's a metaphor for life is, I was never allowed to use dwarfism as an excuse. I had to be aware of it, but not use it as an excuse. And being raised in a world where my parents didn't adjust everything. They did adjust things, weren't monsters, but not catering everything to me and not being like, oh no, he
Learned
can't do that.
helplessness. There was none of that.
Yeah, I played hockey when I was a kid. Like I played hockey outside, where kids got hit. Like I made the basketball team. Like there was stuff that I did that was like, all right, if I had thought about it for a second, being a little person, I would not have done that. If I would have thought about being a dwarf and playing hockey, and there's no little people out there playing hockey, I would have been like, well, that's probably not a good idea. But I didn't. I just did it. 'Cause that's what all the other kids were doing, and that's what my friends were doing, and that's what I wanted to do. So, and that's a mentality that I want to instill in my daughter, because she's also a little person. And also, but it's the most rewarding thing to me when, like, that 15-year-old that I talked about earlier that said I wanted to be famous, but just the fact that he's at that show, because he gets to see someone that looks like him do it. I remember when I went to Disneyland as like a teenager before I worked there. I went with my other dwarf friend of mine. His name's James, and we went to Disneyland together. And I had always not ridden the roller coasters. To be honest, the real reason, because I was a pussy, but the fake reason, because I was like, oh, little people, whiplash, neck, not good, head's big, neck small, that's not a good idea. I can't ride the roller coasters because of that. And then I went to Disneyland with James, and he's like, fuck that, I'm riding. And now I was like, oh, I can't use that as an excuse because I'm literally seeing another little person do this. So then I started riding roller coasters, and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. And now I'm so glad I did. So I'm hoping that can be something for other little people out there to see me doing stand-up and be like, oh, it can be done. Someone like me is doing it. For as much as I may have problems with some of the recent decisions of the man, Peter Dinklage is such a positive person for other little people to look and see, like, oh, he's doing it and doing it well, and not taking typical dwarf roles. He's also preventing us from actually taking those dwarf roles, but that's a whole nother argument. Snow White, no little people. But he is succeeding, and when he went to he hosted Saturday Night Live. So yeah, as a comedian, I can't even be the first dwarf to host Saturday Night Live. Dinklage did it, and when he did, he walked in and he told all the writers, no jokes about dwarfism, none. And 'cause I knew a few of the writers that were there, and they told me this story. And I was like, wow, well, me personally, I don't agree with that. I respect it, because he went in there and they made sketches and his dwarfism had nothing to do with it. And I think that's really great for other little people to see. They're seeing examples of people making it in the business. And whereas when I was growing up, I had the actor Billy Barty, and then everything else I was exposed to was Oompa Loompas and elves and leprechauns and that kind of thing. So I only thought that I could do that. I remember I had I remember I had a teacher in high school, a theater teacher, and when I tried out for the play, I tried out for the kid, because I was like, oh, because I'm tiny. And she looked at me and she goes, why the fuck don't you go for the lead? And I was like,
damn.
And I was like, she was like that. She was awesome. And she swore at me and everything. I was 14.
I love it.
Yeah. And I
Where
was
is
like,
she now? I love her.
She wrote a screenplay Her first screenplay got made into a movie starring Danny Trejo in her 70s. And
Let's go.
That's fucking awesome.
Let's go.
Like, that's so great. And that's the kind of mentality that she instilled in me. Her name is Mary Krell Oishi. I think the movie is called like 1623. It's about Filipino history. She's not Filipino. Who knew? Yeah, like that was what she told me is, why don't you go for the lead? It's like, well, because I'm a kid, I'm small, and she's like, no, go for the damn lead. And then I did, and I got leads in the plays and stuff. So between my parents and her, dwarfism was never allowed to be the excuse of why I can't do something. I could try it, and if it turns out I can't do it, okay, but it can never be, oh, I can't do that because I'm a little person. Can't do that. No.
Which translates to, I mean, anybody listening to this can see themselves inside of that in whatever learned helplessness they have, in whatever upper limits they've set for themselves.
You've gone to therapy because you just said the word learned helplessness. And I enjoy that about you. Well done. That's showing some damn spirit. And I like that.
Thank you. Yes.
Learned helplessness.
You know, we all have healing journeys, my love.
Yeah.
We all have healing journeys.
We do. But that's very true, because whether it be dwarfism or whether it be like people could look at it like, oh, I'm a woman, I can't do this. I'm this race, I can't do this. My sexual orientation is whatever. My gender is whatever. Like, you could be the person that succeeds, and thankfully, we are living in a world where, as much as I could go on about certain biases and things existing, we are living in a world where there are more examples of people of all races, creeds, colors, genders, all that succeeding. So there are examples of like, oh, there's an openly gay person as the Secretary of Transportation. Awesome. Okay, you could do that.
Yep.
Like black president, awesome. Like dwarf comedian, like, which is way low on that list. But like there's examples out there of people doing things where you can go, oh, there's my person. There's my person that I can latch myself onto.
Yeah, and we all have areas in our lives, experiences in our lives where we are really going to have to dig deep into our resilience, right?
Yeah, life ain't easy. It's very, like, everyone has their struggles. I go into this in my act, like, yeah, dwarfism was my thing. Dwarfism is my daughter's thing, but everyone has a thing, you know, that they say. For instance, my wife is half Chinese. She grew up, half Chinese in San Francisco, where she was not white enough to hang out with the white kids and not Chinese enough to hang out with the Chinese kids. And they would say, like, really, really mean things to her. And I've heard those things. So yeah, it's like we all have something that makes us feel not deserving or not good enough. And I'm glad now that there are more people out there succeeding. So if you think, oh, I'm transgender, I can't succeed here, you can look and go, oh wait, but there's that person doing it. And we do have those trailblazers. So if there is a little person saying, oh, I can only be an actor, but I can be only an elf or a leprechaun or whatever, they could see Dinklage, or they can look at me and I said, fuck show business. I'm not waiting for someone to give me permission to succeed. Let me write my own stuff. Let me perform my own stuff, and then I'll succeed that way. And then I have. So I'm so thankful that there's those examples out there. So when you're listening to this, thinking whatever your excuse is why you're not succeeding, it's like, well, you can look out there and there's other people that are succeeding.
And it reminds me of something. I was just watching this clip on Instagram of there was a guy who Oprah, like, years ago, like Dr. decades Phil. Ago. No, God.
God bless Anne Marie.
Yeah. She was, when she was doing her show like decades ago, like her show where everything that she touched turned into gold upon gold, right?
Yes.
She had done something where she went and was like granting wishes. And there was a guy who really wanted to, he emailed her like every day for like years or something.
Okay.
And so she was like, we're going to put this to bed. And he wanted to be an actor. Okay. And so she went and with all of her camera crew and surprised him at like the grocery store that he worked at. And was like, I got you a walk-on role on Will and Grace. And he starts crying and he's so happy. And it's like Oprah just made all of his dreams come true, right?
Okay.
To get this walk-on part on a major hit series. And cut to many years later of like recent times. And he's sitting down doing an interview with Oprah. And he was talking to Oprah about, he's like, Oprah, one of the things that really motivated me to like reach out to you every day and then got me, this winning moment that you gave me that changed my life. He goes, was a story that you told Oprah about your upbringing. And the story was that she was this young girl living in abject poverty. And she was with her grandmother, and her grandmother was like washing clothes and clothespinning them on the line to dry. And she had clothespins in her mouth, and she, looked at little Oprah and said, you're going to have to learn to do this one day. This is going to be your life. So watch what I'm doing and prepare yourself. And Oprah in that moment just went, nope, that's not going to be me. And she was this like just little being on this earth, like a brand new child. And this guy was asking her, how at that age did you know that? How at that age were you able to do that? And there's this theory, in the world of psychiatry of inner protestation, right? Which is your ability. Word. Yeah, it is.
I don't know.
But it is our ability. What it is our ability to have protest within us, to hear something that somebody says and in an instant go, nope, that's not going to be me. Nope, I'm not going to take that on. And instead go, I'm going for it.
Yeah. It's funny now that you mentioned that story. I remember a mindset I had in high school. This is kind of embarrassing. But I remember I asked this girl out in high school, and I got friend zoned, as I did a lot in high school. And I was just tired of being everyone's like friend.
By the way, I did too. Like full disclosure, I was always friend zoned in high school.
You were the friend? Yeah. And I remember going, okay, I'm gonna have to make a lot of money, and then I won't be friend zoned. And I remember that
a declarative moment.
Yes, I remember that mentality of just like, yeah, I gotta make money. Okay, good. And that's not that I got into all the businesses that I got into because I wanted to make money, but that was the switch. Obviously that's what started it, not what's keeping it going. I'm married and I still have the same mentality. So it's but it is interesting how you can have those moments and say, yeah, that's not going to be.
That's not going to be my fate. Right.
Yeah. I remember my first time doing stand-up, very first time. I was in line at the Laugh Factory signing up. You would sign up at like 2:00 and then the show was at 5:00. So you had to busy yourself in Hollywood for like 3 hours. And I remember a guy saw me in the line and he goes, hey, I've never seen you here before. Is this your first time? And I go, yeah, this is my first time. And he goes, well, don't worry about it. Follow me. Do what I do. Do what I tell you to do. And like, I've been here for 12 years. So don't worry. I know what to do. And I remember looking at him going, I don't want to be here for 12 years. I don't want to be signing up for the open mic in 12 years, still going. And what's funny is that guy's still doing comedy to this day, and he's still pretty much open mic. But I remember going like, that was a moment where I went, not me.
Not me.
That's not going to be me. And
hell to the no.
Yeah. And there's two things you can do in that moment. When you have the moment of not me, you could say, all right, so what do I have to do to succeed and have that not be me? Or you have the other moment where you go, not me, because I'm not even going to try. And then you give up. That's
bingo.
That's the crossroads that you're at. There is, because there are certain young comics that reach out to me, which is weird because now I'm the veteran. I was always the kid. I thought I would always be the kid. Now, hey, I'm 40. I'm the 20-year veteran. People ask me advice. So there are young comics that reach out to me and like say like, hey, this is what I got to do. And I will tell them, okay, this is what you do. And I will lay out. And then the response is rarely, okay, great, thank you. The response is usually like, ooh, okay, well, I'm just gonna get on Kill Tony and then I'll get famous. And all right, good fucking luck. Because you might get famous for bombing and having Tony and the judges rip you apart. Don't know if you want that. And then after that, you still have to do the work. You still have to be funny. So, and I'm not knocking Kill Tony. There's a few great comics that my old podcast partner, Adam Ray, that his Dr. Phil character went on there and fucking went through the moon, and now he's selling out theaters. I'm so happy for him. So, yeah, it's like you can, and the open micers that go on that show, they can use it to get to the next level. But for a lot of the people that do that, I feel like they would have gotten there anyway. Kill Tony just gave him a little boost. So it's like you have to be willing to do the work. I always woke up every day, even as a young comic, going like, okay, what am I doing today to help my career? What am I doing today? Even if I'm not doing a show, can I write a joke? Can I do a social media post? Can I watch a special? Can I sit down and write? Can I do something? Can I go attend a show? There's a lot of comics that I say, Neil Brennan has great advice stories where he says people thought he was a comedian before he was a comedian because he would just hang out so much at comedy shows. And that's one of the things that a lot of comics don't do is they don't hang out. They just like, all right, well, I'm not booked on the show, so I'm not going to. No, go.
Yep.
Go. Be there.
Yes.
Be there. That's where all the comedians are. Be there. And I remember some guy asked me recently, how do you get past to the Comedy Store? And I said, well, let me tell you my story and then you could derive whatever you want from it. I got past to the Comedy Store. I was past to the Laugh Factory. I was past to the Improv. I had a special on Showtime. I was there was a billboard of my face on Sunset Boulevard, but I had not been past the Comedy Store. And I went there, and the booker at the time, Adam Egett, I said, hey, I'd like to start performing at this club. And he goes, cool, sign up for open mic night. And I go, Adam, like, I got a billboard, like I got a Showtime special, like what's up? He goes, yeah, sign up for open mic night. and
no shortcuts.
No shortcuts. And as much as that made me mad, I respect it because I would start signing up for the open mic night at the Comedy Store, and I would go there at least twice a month, go there and do my 3 to 5 minute set at open mic night at the Comedy Store for over a year, just doing that while I was going to the other clubs and being on shows, getting paid, while I was going on the weekends to headline on the weekend. I still was like, all right, well, this is what I got to do to be past the Comedy Store. I want to perform here. Let's go. So I kept doing that. And then it was at the Montreal Comedy Festival where Adam Egett saw me at the bar, and that's when he told me that he's going to make me a paid regular at the Comedy Store. And hell yes. So it was like, and it's always so much more satisfying when you know that you did put in that work and then you get what you wanted. It's infinitely more satisfying than if it was just given it to you. If I walked up to Adam Egett that day and said, hey, I want to start performing at your club, and he said, okay, great, you're on tomorrow, you're on tonight, it wouldn't have been as special to me.
Absolutely.
But now doing that, having gone through that, and then now the name is on the Comedy Store wall. That means something to me because I could look at that and go, I know what that was when I started. I remember one of the best comedy clubs in the country is a comedy club called Comedy Works. It's in Denver. It's amazing. Wendy Curtis runs it. She's a goddess. I remember doing that club with Carlos, and he said, all right, if you bomb here, quit. because this is the best club in the country. And I went out and I did it, and I did well. And I was like, awesome. And then Wendy gave me a headliner weekend, and I did that headliner weekend, and it was crickets. Not that I was bombing, but there was no one in the audience. It was like 50 people on a Saturday night. And I was like, motherfucker. And that's when the reality hit me of, oh yeah, but who the fuck am I to sell tickets? They don't know who I am. So, but Wendy or Curtis, who runs that club, kept having me back because she saw something. And slowly you would see the numbers grow. This is before like really TV credits, but going back. And then I remember selling out an entire weekend of shows, and then we added a show, and that one sold out. And that meant so much to me because I was literally having that time-lapse photography in my head of the audience like slowly building. And I was like, yeah, I put in the work. I did it. I deserve this. So then when someone says like, oh, overnight success, or you're only succeeding because you're a dwarf or whatever the fuck, you have the receipts to come back and say, no, sir. I'm there because of this reason.
I mean, it's like those memes that you see on Instagram of like, you just see this little sprout of leaves like coming out of the ground, but you don't see the huge roots that it has taken in order to get that tiny little sprout to break through the ground, and
that's what it is. You know, you starting this podcast, you're not starting this podcast and then the next week they're like, move over Joe Rogan. Right. Alexis is here. And like no, it has to build.
Yep.
You know that. Yep. So you're putting in the work to build it up to that level. And that's what I feel. There's a lot of people that don't see the delayed gratification where we look on Instagram and you see a 23-year-old multimillionaire and you're like, well, I'm older than 23 and I'm not a millionaire yet. So fuck, I guess it's done. No, that's not, that's the exception. That's not the rule. Most people got to grind it out. So start grinding.
And I can't tell you how many people share with me that they feel like they're behind the 8 ball, that they've wasted time, that they're not where they should be, all of that. And I think what you're speaking to is really something that is going to resonate for those people. Yeah,
because social media, like Australia just passed a law that is banning social media for children under the age of 16. And at first, when I first heard that, my guttural reaction as a comedian and an advocate for free speech was, oh, that's bullshit. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I actually really do agree with that. That's a good idea. Because it's not. Human beings should not be bombarded with information constantly about how much they're not winning as much as the next person.
And which may not even be reality that they're comparing themselves to.
Exactly. You're comparing yourself to a false reality that someone is putting on as a front because they have to act more successful. Yeah, I do a lot of videos of me walking out on stage in front of a sold out 1,400 seat theater. You think I shot a video? I was just in Oakland and it was a 3,000 seat theater and we sold like 1,500 tickets. You think I posted that video?
Nope.
No, because it's half full.
Hard pass.
It doesn't look. It's 1,500 people, still great, but it's not. It doesn't look as good. So I've manicured that to not show that. So yeah, but that's the reality, and that's what you're seeing with a lot of social media. Just know that behind every private jet and traveling influencer who's going to Greece and staying at an overwater resort, there's so much shit you don't know about. The same thing that you talked about, how the little sprout has all the big roots. That could be a great thing, but that also could be, but you also don't know all the shit that this person is going through to get that little sprout, and all you see is the sprout.
Everything has a cost.
Everything. So yeah, when I see that, I go, oh yeah, Pro Australia is doing a good thing, taking that away from kids. Because kids will see stuff and be like the kid that I saw at the show, and so they just want to be famous.
And being human is hard enough without to your point, the constant barrage of input that doesn't necessarily make us feel like our best selves.
I was thinking about this the other day where I was listening to I was on the patio of the Comedy Store, and there was some guy ranting about kids these days don't struggle with what we. I go, well, I never got insulted by a stranger in another land when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Kids these days, like, they could post a photo of them riding a bike and they're like, look at this. It's a little late, but I'm 8 years old and I'm riding a bike. And there could be a guy that comments and says retard. And you're just like, what the?
What?
Like,
jeez.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes, I do.
That's something that they have to deal with that we did not have to deal with. There was one time where I was in junior high, and there was, I'll just come out and say this, there was a pedophile that tried to get me.
Boy.
He tried
Here we are.
tried to get me and hop into the van and the whole thing. Thankfully, he didn't do it in a physical way. Like, it was like a mental, like, hey, come
help me with this, or
and thankfully, I had a system with my parents where we had a password.
Yep.
Where I said, okay, what's the password? They go, oh, no, don't have time for the password. Hop in. And I was like, nope. Yep, because we have a password. So the next day, the cops like essentially tailed me in to make sure that they would see that if that happened again, never happened again. So I had to deal with that one time. And obviously, I could still tell you in detail what happened there. Online, that's everywhere. That's everywhere your kid goes. Is they have the potential of some guy saying, hey, you want to be famous? You want money? Just give me your social media account. They have people writing them emails from Amazon saying, hey, your Amazon account's going to be deactivated unless you give us your credit card information. That's all the fucking time.
I know.
So I look at it like, yeah, we had some shit that we went through, but these kids, holy
on a whole
God.
other level.
When you find out that some kids just want to be like, oh, I just want to unplug and I just want to go out to a hippie resort and live in a van, like van life, and I'm always like, good for you.
Go off the grid.
Do that. Go off the grid. Go off the grid. There's now new studies coming out that, because I thought that with all the access to like adult content in the palm of your hand and a phone, that kids would just become addicted to porn. There's a lot of kids that are like becoming asexual because they're overstimulated with all that stuff. So they're going the other way, and I'm like, good.
Oh God, that's a whole other podcast. That's a whole other podcast.
Good.
We could
get away
into.
From it. Run away.
Oh my goodness.
So, I'm gonna do my best to guide my kid, but I have all these worries. I'm sure you do as well with all the online stuff. So. If the U.S. government wants to ban social media for kids under 16,
you'll support it.
I'll support that law.
You'll endorse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I could keep talking to you forever.
We're definitely not going to wait 15 years before we talk.
We're
again.
certainly not. We're certainly not. We'll get through. Wrapping this podcast up, and we'll make a plan. But I always like to ask two questions before we end this. The first is, we've looked at the past. We know where you are presently. Mm-hmm. Look in the future. Look at the timeline. Look at the horizon of what's coming for you. And what do you see?
Less.
Mm.
So
say more about less.
Yeah, I will say this. This year will be, we did the math. It'll be 104 cities, 44 weeks, 9 countries, 3 continents.
God bless.
This year. It was, hey, strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah.
Iron's hot. Go. Make money.
Yes.
I'm not doing this every year.
Yeah.
I am not a Fortune 500 company with stockholders where you have to show a percentage of growth every quarter or whatever the hell. No. I'm amazed when I see people like a Burt Kreischer or a Kevin Hart or a Sebastian Maniscalco have the kind of years that they have, make Forbes top whatever 25 comedians, pull in 20, 30 million in a year, and then the next year they go again. If you see me on the Forbes list making 25 million in a year, next year I'm out. You'll see me at the Comedy Store, and that's it. Just getting my rocks off, just telling jokes and satisfied.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I'm done. There's this story. I'm gonna drop a name some people might know. Is a comedian named Jimmy Carr. Great comic. Dark comedy. If you're easily offended, don't watch this stuff. Really funny though. So he told me this story, and it's like a third hand now. But it's the author, Kurt Vonnegut. And Kurt Vonnegut goes to a party in the Hamptons with a friend of his. And the party is at this mansion that's like the mansion of mansions. It's got tennis courts and basketball courts and a ballroom and a movie theater. And there's cars, just expensive, exotic cars, just lining. There's a separate garage for the car. There's boats. And Kurt's there at this mansion with this guy. And Kurt goes, holy crap, like, look at this mansion. Look at all this stuff. Look at everything. And then Kurt's friend goes, yeah, but I'll have one thing he'll never have. He goes, what's that? And he goes, enough. And man, do I love that. I love having enough. I've got a wonderful house. I've got a great wife. I got a kid who I love more than anything. I've got that. I'm good. And
we're back to the beginning again of why I said this is a grounded, emotionally intelligent human being who, is not so egoic to the point where you can't have this kind of conversation. And it's something that I have always loved and appreciated about you.
Thank you. I'm playing with house money already.
Yeah, there you go. But what a great perspective, right?
I've seen enough behind the music.
It's not the greed is good mentality, right?
Enough is good.
The Gordon Gekko-ish.
Yeah, no, enough
persona
is good.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy, whether you like Elon Musk or hate Elon Musk, I'm sure many opinions are out there of the man. But when he started PayPal or was on the board of PayPal, founders of PayPal, whatever, and then sold it and got like $25 million, I would have been out at that point. I would have been like, cool.
I mean, it's like the hedonistic treadmill, right? Yeah. It's like the it's never enough. I'm when good. Really there is a certain point where happiness, there's a threshold, and once you cross it, you've crossed it. We're good.
I'm obsessed with the happiness studies.
Yeah.
Obsessed with them. Like all the happiest countries. Okay, well, what are they doing? And what's the happiest amount of money? And
and it's never about the private jet or the Rolls Royce, right?
Never is that. Every Scandinavian country of which I toured this past year, that's always in the top things of happiness. They're content. It's always the same thing. Have enough money to where you can support your family.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and have a great meal and not worry about it, cool. You want to see a concert and not worry about the cost of the ticket. Awesome. That's a good amount of money to have. If there's a medical emergency, you're covered. That's a good amount of money to have.
Yeah.
But this
never enough
mentality is not how you're going to achieve happiness. The money will not make you happy. If you have good people in your life, good friends, positive friends, supportive family. If you don't have those supportive family members, cool, get rid of them. Get some supportive family.
Right.
Like find those people that will be that support for you. That will be cool for you.
Reminds me of that movie, The Greatest Showman, right? Like it's never enough.
It's never enough. By the way, the movie The Greatest Showman took a lot of liberties with P.T. Barnum.
Oh,
a lot of liberties. He was not that good of a guy.
Oh my God, I'm just taking mental notes of how many additional podcasts we'll need to do to cover all this.
And I love that movie, but as soon as they started showing P.T. Barnum being like this humanitarian and how he's thinking about everybody else, I'm like, someone needs to read a book.
Holy smokes. Oh boy. All right, final question. Final question.
Yeah.
So I want you to imagine you have a mirror.
Okay.
And in this mirror, you get to have a look at me now moment. So this podcast is really rooted in the idea of, we put so much of our value, we outsource it and we put it in the hands of other people. We put it in how many likes we get on social media or the laughter of the crowd when we land a joke or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I'm always put in the friend zone versus whatever. Like
Right.
we really go, okay, I'm going to try to measure my worth by external gaze and standards.
Okay.
And so this podcast is really about when I turn my gaze inward, when I look to myself for the only acknowledgement and validation that actually matters, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm the one who chooses what my value is. I'm the decider of that.
Okay.
So
I like that.
in this moment and looking in this mirror, having a look at me now moment where all of the outside agenda, expectations, judgments, where all of those just fade into the nothingness.
Okay.
And you have this moment just with yourself in the mirror for everything that you have been through, everything you have done, you have not done, no matter what, being completely worthy of acknowledgement and love and validation. What do you have to say to yourself?
Oh man, that's a question. Because now I'm trying to think. Okay, like I try to have these moments, these mirror moments that you speak of, while it's happening. I don't want to be on the deathbed and then look back and realize, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Like I don't want that. So usually when I'm on stage at a theater and it's packed and it sounds so loud and laughter and everything like that, I try to have those moments of look at fucking you. Look at fucking you. Didn't think you'd be here. When you started, you didn't think you'd get this. Like, I remember when I sold out a club with like 300 people. I was like, holy shit. Now if I sold 300 tickets to a show, that'd be an utter and complete failure. So it's like, wow. And so, yeah, I think of staring at the mirror. Like I said, I'm playing with house money now. So already right now, I would just say to myself, you fucking did it. I would say that anything after this is bonus. The other thing I would also say is make it about her. And that could be for either my wife or my daughter. Make it about her. You did it. You got your dream. I win. Now I got to make sure that my wife gets her dreams and my daughter gets hers. If I can make it about them, great.
That's really beautiful.
That's how I've won. So
that is really beautiful.
Thank you.
That is really, nobody's ever really redirected like that, but with so much love.
Yeah.
Like for the extensions of themselves. That was really beautiful.
Well, they're people that deserve it. Some people may not have the people in their lives.
No, it's just always so fascinating to see the way people answer that question, because it really is different with each person. And that was a new spin, and I really loved it.
I've done it. I've done the thing that I never thought I would do, that I worked towards. Like I said, if it all goes away, all right, I still accomplished things that I never thought I would ever accomplish. So because I got to live my dream and accomplish that dream, now I just want to make sure my daughter can do that with her life. I just want to make sure that she has that opportunity. Like, she doesn't have to take a job because so there's this comic, he lives in I won't say his name, I don't want to, but he lives in the Midwest. He's a great comedian, but he never got to tour or leave and take that leap because he got married very young to a wonderful, successful woman who is the breadwinner of the family. But it's like he can't leave because they've got the base, and so now he can't take the chance. And her job is such that him as a comedian if he gets more and more famous, that might put her job in
jeopardy, at risk. Okay.
Yeah. So that's why I was vague with terms. So I never want that to be a decision my daughter has to make where she goes, well, I really just want to be a teacher, but I need to, they only make, $35,000 a year, whatever the heck it is. There's probably some teachers going, 35 grand, holy shit. But like, I never wanted to say like, oh, I have to take this job because of money or whatever. I want it to be, no, I get to do this job. I want to do this job. I'll try to do this job. And if I succeed, amazing. If I fail, okay. My job is to allow my daughter to have that life. So that's what I'm working towards now.
Well, and I, as a final button on this, I love what you just said about I get to do this.
Yeah.
Right? It's like so many people don't look at the choices that they make. They look at them as obligations rather than choices, rather than I chose this or I get to do this.
Yeah, this is this is not given to me. Like it's not like, oh, I'm obligated or this isn't guaranteed. I get to do this.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Bonus.
Bonus.
Like I said, I'm playing with house money. I'm totally fine with it. And I'm fine as I go through my life. If that's a mentality that I have, I think that's gonna be good. There's so one of the countries I told you I'm obsessed with happiness studies. One of the countries that is always near the top is Finland. And I went to Finland recently and I got to talk to some people there. And there's a great Finnish comedian named Ismo, Ismo. He's amazing. And I talked to him and I said, why is Finland always happy? Why is Finland always the happiness? And he just looks at me and goes, low expectations. Like we don't expect to be the CEO and the Fortune 500 and we expect, very little. So then when we surpass it, we're thrilled.
We are so ending on that note. We are so wrapping on that note because you couldn't say anything better than that in this moment. Other than where can people find you?
BradWilliamsComedy.com. That's the website that has all the tour dates for the Growth Spurt Tour. It just went on sale. I have all of my 2025 booked. Way less dates than this year. So it's always fun when I put out for like 40-something dates and the immediate comments are, why not this state?
Right.
God damn it. But it's like, I'm trying. But I'm not doing a year again like I did this year. So yeah, BradWilliamsComedy.com, on Instagram at BradWilliamsComic. That's the main sort of social media that I use. I am not on TikTok, but if you see one of my videos on there, cool, please reshare it. But yeah, just Instagram and my website and come see a show live.
Definitely go see his show live. I mean, I've seen countless, and it never gets old. I laugh every time.
Thank you.
It's just.
Thank you, and I've gotten better in 15 years.
I'll bet you have. I'm signed up. I'm going to come see you as soon as you're local again.
Please do.
Gosh, that was just. I mean, it was a trip down memory lane for me, but it was also a really great catch up, and I hope you all got a lot out of it.
And now let's shut off the microphone so we can have some real conversations.
Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. All right. I love y'all. Peace. See you next time.
Join us for Look at Me Now, wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to share, like, and subscribe.